Alright, today I want to talk about having a hyperextended big toe in your resting posture. So basically we already know hypermobility, you have worse proprioception, so your body doesn't really know what its joint positions are as well as a normal person. So how does this apply to the big toe? So basically I was discovered I have poor big toe mobility, but what I realized is that it wasn't only poor mobility as in poor flexion, range of motion, just from pure muscle tightness, but it was actually poor mobility because essentially for my whole life I've been walking around with my big toe in a hyperextended position, because we know hypermobility, all hypermobility is systemic. So it's you're either all your joints are hypermobile or none of them are. So basically, if you look at my fingers, they can kind of bend backwards more than a normal person, and that's the case. And so is my thumb, with the thumb being analogous to the big toe. So essentially what was happening for my entire life, which this was also compounded by, as a kid, wearing super thick house slippers all the time, or thick running shoes, not being barefoot, leading to worse proprioception. My big toe was just essentially like this, where it's sort of a hitchhiker's thumb position, and all the pressure was being put on the not the pad of the big toe itself, but this bony part right here. And I even have a callus right on top of the bone, which I'm not gonna show feet pics on this YouTube video, but you can just trust me that there's the big callus right over the bone, which just shows how the pressure has been distributed over the years. And the body is very adaptable, but obviously that's not the optimal biomechanics. So now what I've started to do, I've started training big toe flexion to try, because what I need to do is, this is not a strong position because the joint is hyperextended in this position. So what I need to do is I need to get the big toe back to being like this. And I notice when I do this consciously, I try to grip the ground with my big toe. So it's like this, and the pad of the big toe is contacting the surface of the ground. Then, for one, I have a more normal range of motion. And when I do this, I can actually, because I had an issue with split squats where I thought my big toe range was limited on split squats, but it was actually just because the joint was hyperextended. It was sort of protecting itself from going into full flexion in a split squat. So if I consciously flex the big toe on my back foot in a split squat, then I have a normal split squat range. And it's actually a lot more of the weight is on the big toe. So really, I need to completely relearn my foot biomechanics, because due to the hypermobility, I was basically walking around with incorrect biomechanics. So, but hopefully I think that is the last major piece of the puzzle. I think I do have some hip stuff going on as well, because my hips are very mobile. I actually tweaked my hip one time, which is very rare. I think it's only common in hypermobile people, because I had so much internal rotation that I went all the way internal rotation on a heavy RDL, because I was experimenting with different type of hip positions and mechanics while doing RDLs. And I think I went past my active range of motion of internal rotation. I actually felt something in the hip joint itself. So, and that right hip, now I know what that sensation feels like, and I've gone close a couple times. So it's probably loose or something. So yeah, very interesting stuff. And another thing is, once I have the right big toe posture, what I realized is that I still have some scar tissue left over on my right ankle from the surgery. I got a Brostrom ankle surgery on that side, and so I need to work through that with the right big toe posture. Probably do some more scraping, oil blading on the outside of my foot to get rid of that scar tissue, get it functioning properly. And I think I just need also some direct big toe bodybuilding work. I keep getting ads on Instagram for this foot trainer, where it's basically you can train both extension, flexion with a thing your foot goes into. So I might invest in that and make a video on it, because I think once my big toe is functioning, because the big toe is so vital for everything. The thing is, it's less, you don't really notice it if you're just doing bodybuilding or machines, or even squatting. I feel squatting, I feel it does matter, because I think if the big toe, everything starts from the ground up, right? So if your big toe is out of alignment, then probably, and everything is sort of hyper sensitive when you're hypermobile, because if your big toe is out of alignment and you're already hypermobile and your patella, you have loose patella tracking due to hypermobility, it's likely that will cause more problems for you than someone who is not hypermobile, and even if their big toe biomechanics aren't perfect, they're able to compensate. Their ligaments are able to hold the patella in place and all the way up the chain. So I think basically with since my goal is to be athletic while being hypermobile, basically everything just needs to be perfect biomechanically, because the ligaments can't pick up any of the slack, so to speak. So yeah, direct big toe work on some of the sort of samurai sits, where it's the seiza, but you're sitting on your toes. And I'm gonna try to do that while my big toe is in the right position biomechanically. And yeah, that's all Goda stuff. And Goda, it does seem kind of culty, but I've started implementing the groundwork stretches, and it definitely does something. Because that's how I figured out the big toe issue, was I was trying to do the Goda stuff, and then I realized, why does my toe not go this far back? That made me realize it's been hyperextended the whole time. So that's the next thing I'm going to try to tackle. And I feel like this is probably not talked about. And I'm sure I'm not the only person who has this, because we know modern shoes have completely destroyed most of society's foot function, and even elite athletes will have poor foot function, pain and stuff like that. So I'm sure hyperextended big toe, or big toe lack of muscle tone in the big toe is a big thing.